Hola, señor Psihoyos. Gracias por dejarte entrevistar por la Patrulla Verde. Y felicitaciones por todos esos premios que te has ganado con The Cove.
Thank you for having me.
¿Cómo descubriste todo lo que está pasando en Taiji?
Well, I went to a an ocean conference about 5 years ago, and Rick O'Barry, the guy who captured and trained the five female dolphins that collectively played the part of Flipper, was supposed to talk. But at the last minute, he wasn't allowed to talk at this conference, and I was curious why not, and somebody told me that it was the sponsor of the event, SeaWorld, who wouldn't let him talk. And so I called him up and said, "Why wouldn't they let you talk?" And he said I was going to talk about what's going on in Taiji, where there's the world's largest slaughter of dolphins in the planet going on. And I'd never heard in this day and age of people killing dolphins. And I said, "Who's doing anything about that?" And he says, "Just me right now. Do you want to come?" And I was not a filmmaker. I took a 3-day crash course on how to make a film. And then I went to Taiji with Rick and started the Cove. And that's how that began. It was that simple. When I went there, it was like walking into a Stephen King novel. Stephen King, the mystery writer. It was so bizarre because everything about the town made it look like they loved dolphins and whales. But when you saw what happens in this cove, and the cove, by the way, is in a Japanese national park. It's a nature preserve, and and so the irony was to me was astounding. It was like a movie set that was already built for me. And it's except that the story was so incredible. Here you have the guy who started Flipper. He spent 5 years building that enterprise up. He spent the last 35 years tearing it down, trying to tear it down. He couldn't find anybody to help him on this issue, and that's how I and the ops team became involved.
Hay algo que no entiendo. ¿Cómo es que cazar delfines y ballenas es legal en algunos países? ¿Se los comen? Y si es así, ¿cómo se pelea contra una tradición como esa?
Right. They say it's, in Japan as well, it's our tradition. You have a tradition of killing cows and pigs and chickens. And well, I personally don't eat animals myself anymore, any land animals. But, you know, dolphins are a little bit different. They have bigger brains than us. They have more sensory neurons. They're more sensitive than us. It's the only wild animal to save the life of a human being. So, a group of dolphins, I believe, helped save my life when Rangiroa in Polynesia. I was swimming, and they with these dolphins in the wild, and they all took off, and I was kind of sad. And I looked in the distance. They went over, and there was a great hammerhead shark coming towards us, and they were all pushing it away from me. So it was like, oh my God, they left me to go help save us. And it was an exciting moment where you realize that there's a connection going on that you don't get with, I don't get with other animals. But yeah, I mean, I do think there's special animals, but all animals are special. I think we should regard them with respect.
Ajá. Así que te gustó esto de hacer cine, ¿no?
Movies are a way of, I call movies a weapon of mass construction. You make if you make a bomb, you kill people. If you make a movie, you create allies, and that's what we're trying to do with our films: is trying to create allies, people to help us help solve these environmental problems. So everybody that hopefully sees the Cove, or a lot of people see the Cove, become like warrior citizens to help on not just dolphin issues but environmental issues. And America, we're far from perfect, and I'm sure in Venezuela they have all sorts of environmental issues, and my hope is that we can make these films that inspire people around the world, young people around the world. My fear is that my generation messed up the environment, but my hope is that a younger generation can be charged up and help solve these issues.
¿Nos puedes contar qué pasa cuando tú y tu cámara son testigos de una escena tan horrible como lo de The Cove? ¿Cómo no interfieres? ¿O si lo haces?
It's a good question. I mean, when we were filming the Cove, there was two parts. There's two general parts when we were in Japan working. There's the covert part where we had to be in black paint at night and camouflage in the woods and undercover, and we couldn't do the overt stuff until the covert stuff was done. Otherwise, we would get arrested, right? So we had two missions going on. So we would be on top of a hill watching the dolphin hunters, come to shore with the dolphins. Now, on one hand, you want to get the footage over with so you can start the overt stuff. So one part of you wants the dolphins to escape, and the other part realizes, well, you're going to be there until they get caught. So there was always this conflict going on. But my hope, the first time I was in the Cove and I saw dolphins getting killed, I was hanging from a rope. I was dressed in black, black face paint, black. Everything was black. Shoe polish on the hair, everything. And I remember there's about 11 or 12 pilot whales in the Cove. Big. These are big. They're dolphins. It's a very large dolphin, about 20, 30 feet long. And I remember thinking that you could hear them breathing, and they were circling the young, the babies. And I thought, oh, they're going to die. This is some of the last breaths these animals will ever feel. And I thought, if there's a God, don't let these animals die in vain. And those were some of the first scenes that were in the Cove. And I felt like, horror. What could I do? You could go down and you could cut the nets and maybe let them go. The fishermen would probably catch them. I'd get arrested. You might feel good and get a little bit of press, but my hope is that by making this film, we can one day cut the nets forever.
¿Sabes sobre el impacto que ha tenido The Cove? ¿Nos puedes contar si han habido cambios en la industria?
Sure. SeaWorld, they just had a big reduction of people that go to these shows. They had to fire a big percentage of their staff. I forget, 10, 15% recently, and part of it was a couple reasons. I think partly because of the Cove, and I think partly because at the same time the Cove was coming out, a couple trainers got killed, unfortunately. The funny here's an interesting, ironic story. They were killed by killer whales. Killer whales are called killer whales because they kill whales. There's never been one recorded instance of a killer whale ever killing another human being in the wild ever in the history of mankind. But you have one killer whale, an orca, killing 3 people in his one lifetime, and he was taken from his mother at 2 years of age up in Iceland. And so, so I think a few things are going on where we know that hopefully the demand for these parks are going down, but some are coming up too. I know that there's been more orders in Korea, but we've gone to Korea now, and we're signing autographs on the street. I know hopefully it'll be like Venezuela, where people are seeing the movie and telling each other, not to go to Dolphin Park. People always ask me all the time, what can I do? The simplest thing to do is don't go to Dolphin Park. Don't buy a ticket. That's the key to the solution. And showing the movie around, pirate it. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But show it to as many people as see it. That's the best thing, because we can talk about it, but once you see the movie, it's like then people understand the problem.
Luis, ¿hay alguna otra anécdota que nos quieras contar?
There's been a lot of dolphin trainers that have seen this film and turned them around. Where they quit work and they write me later and say, "Oh, I always felt this way, but you helped me articulate my feelings that I was trying to hide before." Turning those kinds of people around really have been inspirational. The film's not just about dolphins; it's also about our relationship with the oceans. The Cove is a kind of microcosm of what we're doing to the oceans. We're doing what no wild animal will do. We're following our own nest, and we get sometimes hundreds of emails a day from people around the world that have seen the film and want to know what they can do to help, and say that it helped them to, they look at animals differently. They stopped eating meat. They want to get involved in environmental issues. This is happening all over the world. And when we did this film, it was the first film I ever did. There was no reason to believe that I had any right to make a film that people would want to see, much less help change their lives. But that's happening. I wanted the film to be like psychotherapy, like make the people think and challenge their beliefs. And that happened. And, once you realize that you can have that kind of effect on people, positive change, it gives me inspiration. It gives me hope to do the next one, because I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity that we have to use this very powerful medium. And, to use this eye, I've been developing for decades, working for National Geographic and other, magazines to realize that you can now, create an environmental army to help us solve these issues. We're seeing it happen right now, and it's very exciting.
Aquí, en Patrulla Verde, estamos anotados en ese ejército de activistas por nuestro planeta. Gracias por hablar con nosotros. Fue un tremendo honor conocerte. Y sabes, cuentas con esta patrulla desde Venezuela. Chao.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye bye.
Los delfines y todos los animales de este planeta tenemos derechos. ¿Y sabes cuál es un buen plan? Respetarnos. Podemos empezar, como dice Louie, por no pagar para ver animales en cautiverio, ni nadar con delfines, ni ir a circos. Anda, pégate a la movida ecológica. ¿Va?